rock and roll. Hey everyone. So yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks. We've been like Titanic's been on everybody's mind because the media, that's, for a while that's all they were talking about. The foremost authority on it was James Cameron. That's JC. Initials mean a lot with these things. Let's call it like video voodoo. Social media voodoo. I mean, like, back in the days, we would have been calling this because it just seems so absolutely absurdly ridiculous. Like, who would get into like a tin can like that and go down there? So much uncharted territory. Well, apparently they had like 200 dives, under their belt, or under Stockton Rush's belt, and 14 dives down to the Titanic. So yeah, so I was like kind of mulling around like the occult, angle to this, because it's kind of ritual. Some kind of, remember we live in a big church, big cathedral, or should I say basilica, or serpent-like. Yeah. We're driven by our beliefs and our fears. You don't have the fear of the Lord, you have the fear of stepping in the line, not being accepted by our peers. And so, like, for the last 100 years since the Titanic sank, and that was very symbolic. I believe they scuttled it for some reason or other. So, the chosen ones, didn't get on board. And the ones that competed or got in their way, they went on this wonderful, pleasant voyage, maiden voyage. Sank 111 years ago. 111 years. It sounds a bit occult too, a bit Masonic. Speaking about Masonic, like everybody knows, like the Washington Monument is 550 feet, 5 feet above ground. But to stay there for as long as it has, it's 111 feet deep, making the total obelisk. 666 feet. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it's kind of strange. And they made 14, like the Titan made 14 dives down to the Titanic. Osiris was cut in 14 pieces. And the obelisk is a piece that was never found. You can imagine what part of the body that was. Yeah. He wasn't a unicorn. But, the occult thing was interesting. And might look into that, at a later time. I always want to really delve into that whole Titanic thing. Anyways, the thing that struck me is like Stockton, like made sure he did all these interviews about his maverick, you know, diving style. And like, he was bragging about that before this Titan was ever built. He was diving with the Cyclops. Yeah, more occult shenanigans. So he was talking about his carefree, safety's a waste of time kind of deal on the Cyclops in 2017, I think it was. But then he had an Xbox controller, the real deal. I mean, not what you expect. There must be guys or girls using a game controller and a screen to control those drones during war. It must be similar to that. I imagine it's like a game. So I wonder if they're using Xbox controllers. Maybe, a lot of people pointed at that as being really, that's absurd. But, okay, so that and all the, it was also, reported to be jerry-rigged. So, okay, they got a great laugh out of the Cyclops jerry-riggedness. So they came out with this new ship that they made out of fiberglass, never tried before. Fiberglass and titanium with acrylic porthole, and it can shatter and completely disintegrate at a second's notice. You don't even get noticed. You hear, Stockton says, you hear a crinkle or something like that. That's it. It's done. That's the last thing you're ever going to hear in your life. So, with the new Titan submersible, yeah, they made it out of untried and true materials, aka fiberglass. It was rated for less than that depth anyways, so or maybe just as much. I think 4,000 feet or something. But you're supposed to be able to go 8,000 feet in order to dive 4,000 feet, just to be extra safe. But no, Stockton wouldn't have any of that. He'll go the limit. He'll take it to the limit. That's one thing. Then his deal with the one button, it should be an elevator. He pushes a button. I mean, it just seems like a complete parody to me. Just really, really laughing in our faces as they always do. And yeah, and just the Cyclops before it, that one. It looked more professional. It looked less like an empty tin can hull, which is what we see with the Titan, this new Titan. And they're just gonna sit around in an empty tin can on the bulkhead, and put their backs on the bulkhead, and with one little cheap monitor. It was a living room shaped like a tin can that you were expected to just sit on the floor. So there's no real comfort zone. They're supposed to sit there for hours. On the floor? Well, you don't have much choice because you're even sitting down. It's about 4 or 5 inches over your head. So it's just a joke. It just seems like a joke that somebody would pay $250,000 to go into. Like into basically a coffin. So, my opinion, this is just an opinion. So I don't think that happened. I don't think they'd be that stupid. Yes, there might have been 14 launches, but there was a couple in Florida that paid that much for a trip. I think it was at that time it was 110,000, and I think that was for the Titan. I don't know. I don't know the details, but anyways, he negged out on that, reneged, and they were in the process of suing him. To which, after the Titan disaster, I think they stopped proceedings. I'm not sure. I just find it hard to believe that, like, for very rich, wealthy people, I think 2 of them are billionaires. I think you have to have a little bit of common sense, like, to know where the danger zones is and when it's too risky. And they do that with finance. I think they're going to do that with their lives. And all the warnings and just through the roof. Very similar to the Titanic. Not that people didn't believe that even God couldn't sink the ship, is what they said in the Titanic movie. But like it was a lot of boasting about how it couldn't sink. Like that was a big thing. It can't sink. It can't sink. And then there was a couple books written describing the whole thing, like completely, like up to smashing into an iceberg, colliding with an iceberg. And they were written like the last one. The first one was in the 1860s. The other one, I think, was about 20 years before. But that didn't have a lot of warnings, coming up to the maiden voyage. But during the course of this thing, the Titanic, it was being warned by like 5 or 6 ships to steer clear of that area because there's an iceberg 10 times the size of the Titanic ahead. And they refused to heed the warnings to the point where they told the Californian after a few hours of badger, the Titanic crew felt all these ships were badgering them, and that they had so much like hubris that they weren't even afraid of an iceberg. And yeah. Anyway, I'm getting away from the Titan thing. Can't say a lot these days, anyways, because they just passed Bill C-11 in Canada, so you have to be extra careful about what you say now. China's gonna get you. I don't know, man. Just completely unbelievable. And it's like a parody, laughing in our faces, but at the same time, it's deadly serious. It's about safety. The whole thing is about safety. You see, Stockton Rush is your stereotypical kind of outside the box thinker. Equating to like some kind of conspiracy nut job that would do and they'd paint him as a white supremacist. what's this? You know, and just like say that he believed it was an inside job and all this stuff, you know. They always like paint them as a conspiracy nut job, like somebody who has eyes to see. Anybody that like prays to the Lord and gets deliverance. But yeah, you notice like safety. Ever since the Titanic, like we had prohibition. You know, the first major like psyop was the prohibition, and that brought in all kinds of bad behavior. And they had already they already knew that from experience that if government passes stupid laws, they're going to get a lot of stupidity back, and it's going to hit them in the face like a sledgehammer. But I think that was the idea, to criminalize the United States, turn it into a fully fledged gangster nation. Or maybe it was just opportunity as they saw, as they reaped the dubious rewards. First the government took a hit because they controlled tax liquor, and suddenly they couldn't tax liquor anymore, so they were losing a lot of money, and there was a big vacuum, and of course they knew that by experience too. There'd been drug lords since Babylon. So anyway, what did we get out of that? We got like gangsters, and by 1930 the Roaring '20s they were machine gunning each other down in the streets, like drive-by shootings, the whole deal. America really was out of control. Even Hitler called it a gangster nation. That was our first mistake, letting them ban anything. I always said, man, there should be a national day where all the politicians, they have to go out and find somebody to shine their shoes, like the common poke down there. Every one of them has to come down and humble themselves to us, so they remember at all times who's the boss, and they're reminded with a national holiday every year. I don't know if that would keep them in line, but at least they'd be touchable, At least you can keep them on a short leash. Because the government's they're like a child, running you. They're taking the place of mommy and daddy or nanny, and except it's a little boy. You give him an inch, he takes a mile. He takes your life. Yeah. So what's happened since the Titanic? That we've had prohibition, which created the underworld, basically. It really galvanized the Italian mob. It was the advent of Charlie Lucky Luciano. Okay, now we have the mafia. Then they started banning cocaine, heroin, opium. They started banning all these things successively over the next few, 30 years or whatever. And then they of course got to pot in the 50s, and they were telling us that we're gonna kill our spouse or something, or just go out of this world, jump off buildings and stuff, reefer madness. And all this is to keep us safe, you know. We have to be safe from ourselves. The almighty government will keep us safe from ourselves. You should see in China, like, all the stuff they ban. They actually tried to ban the letter N for some reason. It held a derogatory finger point at some of the politicians. And the Communist Party of China is so afraid of their people that they have to ban anything that comes even close to subversion. And we are headed rapidly down that slippery slope, just sliding the way, diving, into the abyss like the Titan. Whew. Yeah, what a psyop, man. I think it is, the way the media was going about it. I was like, at the time with my kids, we were talking about how it's got to be a distraction. The media is like hinged on it, Meanwhile, there's all these crimes going on in the government and Biden, all this intrigue, and all these things that are going on in the America, that are very important, but the media never talks about it. It's never ever talks about it. They're absurd. In that C11 that I alluded to before, they want to make sure that CBC is always first on the Google search. You know what I mean? As if it isn't already, but the CRT wants to make that law and official and everything. They've been doing all that anyways. Now they've made it their law, So yeah, we're heading really in a bad direction with safety, and safety's done it. Like it's done it all the way. Like, we're gonna keep you safe. We're gonna conduct a drug war. We're gonna arrest your kids for having and possessing pot and put them in jail for like 20 years. We're gonna create this big penal colony in the United States. Isn't that funny? For your safety. Even though they created all the crime. If they wouldn't have done prohibition or illegalized drugs, like they should have never had the right to. Seems pretty like common sense to me that you don't give the government the power to tell you what you are going to put in your body or you won't put in your body. You should be able to make that choice, not the government. And then they hire all these FBI agents right off the bat. They're machine gunning Bonnie and Clyde. Remember we had all the Dillinger and Babyface Nelson and all this stuff that just came over a few years? How many of them were Hollywood actors? Now the world's a stage. So Stockton Rush is like very cavalier about safety. And like in the videos, he just seems like he's acting. Like this is some kind of act. You can't be being for real. Like safety is safety, but when you're going in a coffin like to 3,500 feet down, isn't it 3,500 feet? Whatever. It's deep. It's the abyss. When you're going all the way down there, and there's like I think it's like the Empire State Building is sitting on your ship. That's how much pressure there is. was talking about like safety. Safety is the thing that all the professionals like uh, Jim Cameron, JC, right? The Lord. Fuck, I get kind of lost what I was going to say, but anyways. So we're like going with the safety, and this psyop like has to do with that. Maybe it had like, it might have two angles to it. It might just be purely a skit to laugh in our faces. Or it could be like Stockton Rush. He talked about going down to the Titanic as if it was going to another planet, and he was using spacefaring language to talk about diving into the abyss. And so, like, now that the technology is up to par and we can theoretically get into space with like a passenger ship, a tourist ship, a cruise ship. Yeah, any rich person can go up in a cruise ship and fly into space and see the Earth like we've never seen it before, not even in pictures. Tally ho! Now we got this, and this is probably having to do with that. I've heard the media allude to tourists going to space and how safe that is, and they're going to question all that now. And it might be a way for them to stop this in its tracks before they really discover that the Earth is not what they say it is. That we're never going to space because we can't go to space. How's that? How do you like them apples? I don't say that's the way it is, but that's the way I believed it is for a very long time. Way before the FE came out. But yeah, it might be something like that, or just the 111th anniversary of the Titanic. So this is the way they have to celebrate it, by laughing in our faces, creating this big Hollywood skit for our amusement, and have this Stockton Rush character, talk so cavalierly about life and death safety, where it should be important. Obviously, safety in that case is important, but safety in our case, being, should I say, anyways, just controlled by the government. Like anything, they can ban anything they don't like. So it started with like alcohol, then it went to drugs, then it went to marijuana, then it went to, and there was also a lot of taboos and bans in that way, to keeping people really enslaved and not being able to really express themselves properly. Right up to the 50s, and then 60s we had the liberation and all that, and then Nixon amped up the drug war and made it official that America's conducting a war on drugs. We're gonna get those gangs. It's a good excuse for us to bloat our government further. Much, very good excuse. Never let a good catastrophe come to waste, And then the 80s and stuff, 85, I think. I hope I'm not being too scattered, but in the 80s it started with political correctness. I remember I started hearing it on Saturday Night Live. They were making fun of it. And this was, it was about like, it was 1980. It was around there. Anyways, they started sliding in this political correctness, and then, they started banning things left and right. I don't remember why. I don't have a fucking list or anything like that, but you can just imagine by what was it? I think it was like the mid-90s or something, they banned smoking inside establishments. Up until then, they had this ridiculous law. I think they enacted it in the 80s or something, 1980 perhaps, where there'd be a room for the smokers, and the rest of the cafe you couldn't smoke in it, but kind of defeated the purpose, especially in the winter. It was really a stupid measure, like a lot of the stupid measures we saw a couple of years ago. And then they eventually banned it from inside places, which, I was kind of suspect of it back then too. Like, I never thought, I had this instinct, like a natural instinct, that the government shouldn't be banning things. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. Because there's no stopping them. When do you put the brakes on banning things? So they started with the smoking, and then the seat belts, and it's just like now you have to build your cars so they crumple when you hit something, and so they're basically they've been rendered disposable lighters for the most part. And like now like over the last few years, the bag controversy. You know what I mean? Like for the last 10 years, the government's been trying to ban bags, because it's not green. So I think the grocery stores and various stores just ignored the ban and just kept giving customers bags, because they go to shop there. You go to shop there and you buy all this stuff off them, and then they have you carrying it all out in your arms. It's absurd. You have to buy a bag. You have to carry a bag all the time with you. What if you go spontaneously? Whatever, like it's common courtesy to give us a bag after, So now that's missing. So it just enables like owners of these establishments not to appreciate us, and just just disrespect us like that. We buy all our groceries, we have a pile of them. Where the hell we're gonna put them? They won't give you a bag unless you buy one. They don't give a shit about the bag. I mean, if they really cared about garbage, they would tell the companies that make all this stuff to stop, excessively packaging everything. It's like that's a mountain of garbage, a mountain of pollution to make. To create it it's a hell of a lot of burden for the environment. They're so concerned about the environment, but they don't tell the companies how to package their ridiculous packaging. You go into any given pharmacy and you're looking at a mountain of garbage just in one pharmacy. It's just all to control, and now they just get really petty now, and they can just ban words, or they can ban you. And like they don't even need the government to do it now, you know? It's just like you're banned and that's it. You can't go to pay, you know, you can't get your donations at PayPal, you can't, you know, there's a lot of things you just can't do all of a sudden because they're all in collusion with each other, the credit, social media. Safety. We're like being destroyed by safety. You know, if you don't take any risks in life, you're not alive. And then COVID, like completely, like put that on steroids. That whole mentality of safety, being afraid of a boogeyman that you can't see. How long has this been? Not bad, 36 minutes. I hope I'm not keeping it so too long, but I just think Stockton Rush is an actor, and it might have happened. You know, I can't say it didn't happen. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's just an opinion. I think there's something very hokey about it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It seems like a spoof. It seems like they're making fun of us on the 111th anniversary of Titanic. The sinking of Titanic. They milked that for all it was worth at the time, and you know they're milking it again. They're also distracting people from a lot of real events that are happening in the world, really important stuff, like you know, France exploding into complete insurrection. Conflagration. Yeah, it's getting dark here. I suppose how much this lights up this thing. I mean, that's through the window. It's pretty good. I just set the whole thing up, so I didn't know quite what it looked like before. Anyway, Stockton Rush, like over goofy and over like cavalier and just not even like somebody that, even if you're gonna, I don't know, if you're gonna invest that much money into a submersible, you're gonna do everything to make sure that it doesn't collapse. I mean that's the premium, you know, that's safety first. You don't want it to like implode. You're gonna try everything, you know, tried and true. You're gonna go to tried and true. You're gonna use steel and titanium like everybody else. You're not gonna want to try to be experimental. That's absurd. I think there was a few other trips. I saw some interviews on other trips in that thing, and it made it at that point, but it could have been. I just don't understand how anybody could be that stupid, like pay $250,000 to sit in a can, a tin can. You know, being controlled by not even like an Xbox controller, but you know, a third-party knockoff like a Logitech. And they've been known to fail and everything. And like he was getting all these warnings, and he's still with his like cavalier attitude, like even talking like safety, like it's an unnecessary, you know, it's so unnecessary and just a joke. Yeah, and then it explodes, and then of course the media milks it for everything it's worth, and everybody's like sad for the, you know, sad for the crew and sad for Stockton, but they can't help but calling him an idiot. I guess it's like fodder for the idiocracy, that we find ourselves in. Or maybe it just happened and it came out that way. It's all organic. It's all coincidental. And it's all about the Titanic and the abyss. Anyway, I'll make another video about it another time. I've kept you guys long enough. I'm going to sign off. I guess that's a wrap. And I'll see you next time.